Okay, I have a lot to talk about, so I really gotta get started. So, let's get to my low, my high, my active kindness. Well, part of the low is the fact that now we finally get a whole bunch of snow. And it's coming down surprisingly a lot. It's out of this world, I'm not gonna lie. But the other thing is, after trying to give it a lot of thought, and even though it did seem like a good idea at first, I don't think I'm gonna no longer like write down everything I see when I watch Hot Ones or the Go Big Show. Really, anything for that matter, unless I'm really feeling it. Just because, like, especially for Hot Ones, I had to like replay a question like over and over to make sure I worded everything right as I wrote it down, and that just got really annoying. And not to mention, with the Go Big Show, there's like essentially one take. You know, I don't really have much of an option. If I mess something up, then oh well. But my high was I got to see the new episode of Hot Ones, the Go Big Show, and I finished watching Kid Cosmic already. I'll be talking about that later on. And so, my act of kindness was I actually ran an errand for someone yesterday. That was very nice. So, good morning. Happy Friday, everybody. And honestly, the perfect day of the week to talk about this. So, the biggest takeaway from Hot Ones is Ed Helms was great. You know, he actually debunked a few theories about The Hangover. He talked about how, like, as you move on through comedy in your career, you know, you get to meet a group of people that you just stick by forever. Kind of like in high school. Which totally led me back to doing track and then Coach Jansen vibes, but that's beside the point. He talked about playing the banjo. And Ed Helms actually had a career doing, he was always that voice in the background of like medicine related commercials. Like side effects may include yada yada, like that voice, that was him at one point. So that was really cool. Now we get into the Go Big Show. Okay, so the winners of the Go Big Show definitely all deserve. I mean, you have a guy who stacked like up to 30 feet being in the air of chairs. They didn't interlock, they didn't do nothing. They just like stacked up right on top of one another, and that was it. If he fell, it was over. But he didn't fall. And he was really, really cool. And he was 63 years old too. I don't know what to tell you. Now, they had the second person who won was a guy named Andrew Vargas, who said he was an amateur escape artist. There are so many things I gotta ask about that. One, there's actually a level of amateur when it comes to escape artistry. Because I'm pretty sure, like, no matter what level you are, you get one shot or you die. But, I mean, he's trapped in a tank, in a straitjacket, in water. Like, he was awesome. And then finally, the last competition was between a jump rope champion and a fire dancer. And shout out to the fire dancer, especially for the message he was trying to do, because he had like face paint on his mask. Like the handprint that was on his hand was like a symbol for like all women who get like abducted or something. It was a really powerful message, very nice. But man, that jump rope girl could jump, man. It was cool. It was really cool. So yes, ultimately this was a great episode to end because we have one episode left until we get to the semifinals. It's going to be like early April, I think. Well, will it be early April? It could be. You have next week, 3 episodes. Okay, so like mid-March. But still, I mean, we're winding down. It's going really great. And now I have to talk about the real meat and potatoes of this because, let me just say, back in 2009, a gentleman by the name of Craig McCraken came up with an idea. Now, for those who don't know who Craig McCraken is, he was the original creator of the Powerpuff Girls. He also created Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, and then later Wander Over Yonder for Disney Channel. All three shows are great, and I'll talk about those in a minute. But he came up with an idea that would later become Kid Cosmic. Now, needless to say, if there's one, with Wander Over Yonder, that show ended abruptly, but not quite on his terms. Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends was good, but a lot of people kind of had to go all the way to find the movie that ended the series, or especially promos for the movie that ended the series. Not to mention, Cartoon Network really didn't do a good job of marketing it as such. And then the Powerpuff Girls dealt with seasonal rot. I'm here to tell you right now, without any form of distrust, that Kid Cosmic is the best show that Craig McCraken has ever made. I'm being serious. From the fact that, yeah, it's a short series, but it's one that he personally designed to be that way, and therefore end on his terms. With a story that you can follow, believe in, have fun watching, and not to mention, I've talked about the cast several times. I'm not going to go into that here. But you believe all the emotion you hear when you listen to the voice cast do their work. I mean, again, I talked about them before, the likes of, Greg Griffin, sorry, I'm blanking out right now, everybody else. But the point is, everyone in the show is great. Now, let me get into how season 3 worked out. So apparently, it turns out that at the end of season 2, the world finds out that Kid Cosmic and the local heroes saved the world. And they're getting everything they wanted. They get like a robot, like a headquarters, all that stuff, right? It turns out that in the season 2 finale, Phantos actually put them in a fantasy world via portal. So, it was all fake. And it really does show how far immaturity Kid has come. Because, for those who don't know, the Kid's backstory is, when he was very little, his parents died in a car crash. So when this fantasy world brings them back, Kid realizes, you guys make me feel nothing. My real parents never made me feel that way. Like, dude, I would reckon that kid is about somewhere between the age of 7 and 10. And he's already coming up with stuff like this. That's really mature. Like, really mature. And not to mention, shout out to Papa G as well. Because he goes to one of the greatest arcs I think I've ever seen. Like, he figures out right away that they're in a fantasy world. But it's everything the kid wanted. And it makes sense. I mean, after the kid's parents died, Papa G was all he had. So, he's in that turmoil like, do I tell the kid? Do I not want to hurt his feelings? And you see both sides of the argument pretty well. And not to mention, you learn about Papa G's backstory when he was really little. His family moved to like this new area, but he was sick of it and he wanted to leave, so he tried running away. And by nightfall, he had no idea what he was doing. He was lost. And he's only a kid. So he looks to the mountain and he sees something shiny on top of it. And he gets up on top of the mountain, and he finds it, and then he falls down the mountain. he thanks the fact he survived by that very thing he found on top of the mountain. And it actually does have very important relevance in a minute. And by a minute, I mean right now. Apparently, there's a 14th stone of power. A 14th cosmic stone of power. They don't really specify what the power is. All that you find out in the end is that Papa G had it the whole time. All those years ago. Because it turns out you also find Herodias' backstory too. Herodias, the planet killer, actually was not a planet killer at all. He was actually a planet healer. Well, sort of. Basically, it was a planet that, like, if you went to this planet and you were like sick or badly injured, people would go to it to heal. Until one day an asteroid hit Herodias and it scattered in a million pieces. And one of those main pieces was the stone of power that Papa G found. In trying to heal itself, it tried to take in the pain of others by destroying the planets of others, if that makes sense. That's why it became the planet killer. Trying to find that missing piece. It turns out Papa G had it all along. Leading to what many believe was the ultimate sacrifice. Because Phantos brought Herodias to Earth with the possibility of destroying it. And honestly, it's so satisfying seeing Thanos, like, get destroyed. Seriously, don't get me wrong, Bobby Moynihan really sold it as Thanos, but you really wanted this guy to lose. He's a guy you love to hate, and that's good writing right there. So, Papa G reveals that, you know, he always believed that he lived a long life in good health because of luck. When he finally realized it was the stone of power that was keeping him alive all this time. And then we find out that Papa G is 112 years old. Wow. 112 years old. I tell you what, don't get me wrong, having that cosmic stone of power can help you live longer, but the fact that he said his life is good, that says a lot to how much luck he really had. So naturally, Papa G gave up the stone of power, and the penultimate episode ends with us believing that Papa G passed away because of it. In the next episode, he totally lives. Which, first writer from Centaur World, and now this, right? So, the final episode starts off with everyone paying their respects to all of the destroyed planets that Herodias destroyed. As well as, because remember, the diner was destroyed as well when Queen Vargas teleported them into space. So they're all paying their respects, and then the government arrives for like the third time, but this time it's for real. So the government tells them, listen, we will forever thank you for what you did. In fact, we'll give you a very, very, very giant check that starts with the number 5, with a whole lot of zeros, to make sure that you see our gratitude. But you can never tell anyone what you did. And naturally, Kid doesn't agree to that at all. He wants people to know what happened. He even tries writing a spoof comic about what they did, giving everyone different names. Like, Joe was called Jan, tuna sandwich was called ham sandwich, stuff like that. And none of the publishers take his comic. So everyone feels like, everyone feels sort of sad by this. And then Mo gets an idea. Because obviously, they've been around alien tech. I mean, Chuck is still there. So basically, they try and jerry-rig a satellite for all aliens of the known universe to come back to the grand reopening of Mo's Oasis. Like No Little Place in Spaces. Cafe. And so they ended it perfectly. I mean, technically, the good folks of the local heroes, they never said a word about anything. All they did was just make a satellite for all aliens of the universe to come. So the aliens can tell the world themselves. What can I say? It works. And they didn't break the law either. This totally works. So, needless to say, I mentioned earlier that this is Craig McCraken's best show. By far. And I was trying to think as to why that was. Because it was Powerpuff Girls that originally gave Craig McCraken his start. And yeah, that show's good. But by the end, it started suffering from something called seasonal rot. Basically, it went on longer than it should have, is what it is. But it ran for 78 episodes. Fair number. Pretty big number. More than what most Disney shows get, actually. And then there's plus, I'll be honest with Powerpuff Girls, that show never really made my top 5. To be perfectly honest, I still struggle to make my top 5 when it comes to original Cartoon Network cartoons. But I can't put Powerpuff Girls in my top 5. I mean, Ed and Eddie's in my top 5. Codename Kids Next Door is in my top 5. Courage the Cowardly Dog is in my top 5. Probably Dexter's Lab. And maybe The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. With an honorary mention to being in the top 5, you're going to Johnny Bravo. But I'm getting sidetracked. And then there was Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Now, that show was great. It was great. Like, it was one of the first shows to really utilize Flash animation effectively. The characters were great, even though Blue got kind of annoying at the very end. To me, anyway. But when it comes to the movie that ended the series, I think it was Destination Imagination. Like, Cartoon Network didn't really do a great job of promoting that was the series finale. Not to mention, they didn't really show many commercials about it either. So you kind of had to go out of your way to find it. But for what it was good. Now, Wander Over Yonder was Craig McCraken's first step into Disney. And much like Gravity Falls before it, Wander Over Yonder also suffered from a series that wound up being too short and ended not quite on the terms of Craig McCraken's wishes. Although they did use the 11-minute segment format brilliantly, much like Steven Universe did. And now we get to Kid Cosmic. This show literally had everything that Craig McCraken wanted his show to be. It had a good story. It had, what? If you couldn't already tell, I'm trying to tell you that Kid Cosmic is definitely S tier. So let's break down why that is. Because I have a sort of criteria for that. The first criteria is it has to follow the Blockbuster Busters 3 main criteria for what makes something great, which is it has to tell a good story, has to be entertaining, and it should show you something you've never seen before. And while the last one technically has elements from a bunch of things that we have seen before, never quite to this tandem or combination. So it counts. The second thing is, this show has to have a straight dynamite cast. That, from beginning to end, I already mentioned Grey Griffin, that should tell you enough right there. But just from, a creative story perspective, I think it's Jack Vasquez, I think is the kid or whatever. Everyone, Fred Tatasciore as Tuna Sandwich, Tom Kenny as Chuck. I could go on. This cast is great. So already you got that. A great cast, great supporting cast. The only real problem with that is I mean, Kid Cosmic literally has only been around for a year. Literally only a year. But considering that it definitely lasted longer than Centaur World did in terms of how long that was, how long it took that to get made. If I give a pass for Centaur World, I can give this a pass too. Easy. By the way, I want to make one thing clear. I didn't give Centaur World a pass necessarily. I'm just saying they both Centaur World and Kid Cosmic are S here. I'm just trying to tell you slight differences between them, obviously, outside for what the shows are about. And now the final thing I had to tell myself is I had to sit back, have a good think, and ask and tell myself, we are never going to see anything like this ever again. Now, there are so many things about that statement that are true, outside from the fact that it does involve a team of superheroes that, I'll have different personalities, different walks of life, people that you never even would expect to be heroes at all. A story that is heartwarming and easy to follow and understand. And the creator did everything his way and how he wanted it. I don't need to say anything more. And there certainly isn't anything about this show I thought was groan-inducing or anything like that or unforgivable. So, yeah. Kid Cosmic is definitely S tier. So, thank you, Craig McCraken, for all you've done. I can't wait to hear what your next project is going to be, if you even do one. Just enjoy the fact that you made one of the best shows I think I've seen in a long time. So, there you go. Like, favorite, share, hit the subscribe button, follow me, especially apply for YouTube. I'm very helping this video for all of you guys who watch. Enjoy for today. We'll have a wonderful, wonderful Friday. And remember, guys, I want to talk to channel. We'll be here to lend me. Always here back. Take care and make good choices. See ya.